My friend and I had just returned from a trip to Hawaii, and my friend was driving my car. Probably due to fatigue driving, she lost control of the car and we collided head-on with another car. At that moment, I floated out of my body and looked at my friend and my body inside the car. I noticed smoke starting to come out of the engine area, which wasn't too serious at the time. Neither of us moved and both seemed dead. Except for her body, her spirit was not with me. I remember at that moment, I wanted to tell my parents and friends about the accident and that my life was over. I was leaving them and I appeared right in front of them. I noticed that I could travel through time and space. My friends and parents couldn't see me and I thought something else was waiting for me instead of visiting the living, because I was dead. There is no tunnel in my story, as I have read some of them. I was even waiting for a tunnel, but there wasn't one. I entered a dark place with nothing around me, but I wasn't afraid. It was really peaceful there. Then I started to see my whole life appear before me, like a movie projected on a screen, from infancy to adult life. It was so real. I could also feel the feelings of the people I was interacting with. I can feel their emotions. I can also see that I get some points for the joy I bring them and some points back for those who don't feel good about me, just like a bank account. But as far as I know, everyone here has an account. The more points I get, the more I will be allowed to enter a better area or a better place. At the end of the movie, everything went black, just like the real movie before the lights were turned on. Then I learned through this knowledge that I was supposed to have a place in heaven, but had no idea what it would be like or what heaven was. I had a wonderful feeling of peace. I had a wonderful feeling of happiness that was getting stronger and stronger, and it felt so good. In the darkness, I saw a light in the distance. I was drawn to it. And I got closer and closer to it. That feeling of happiness became so strong, so good. In real life, I'm the kind of person who pays attention to details to see how things work. I didn't want to go too fast and try to understand what was going on here. Then I got into the orbit around the luminous body. It was like a cone of light. When I was in this orbit, I heard the words peace, joy, happiness, love, eternity. I remember those 5 words. And in order to enter the light I had to get rid of everything else. I remembered that something was preventing me from entering the light, and after analyzing it, I realized that it was my resentment against several people. I had to forgive them in order to purify myself of all negative thoughts. Now that I had permission to enter the light, I could almost touch it. But I held back in order to see more details before I actually entered the light. I feel so good before I enter the light because these feelings of love are so strong. I'm amazed that I can still feel this way. I was surprised that I could still think like I did on Earth, and at that moment I started laughing because I thought, how could I die? So I said, bring all the love you can. And at that moment, I thought, there is nothing better than that. It is much better and stronger than any expectation I had of heaven. I said, please give me more love. The feeling became more intense and I noticed that there were different levels in the light. At that moment, I had all the knowledge of the universe, and I knew the answer immediately when I had a question. This was great. My first question. Is there life elsewhere? I think that you know the answer to that question. And if you don't know, then the answer is also yes. We are not alone. My second question is, do other planets have superior forms of life to ours? The answer is that other planets have more intelligent beings. My third question. Are there many planets that are less evolved than Earth? Yes, and there are thousands of them too. My fourth question. Can I go to a planet with a higher level of evolution? In a flash, I was on another planet. There were a lot of people standing in front of me, and they were surprised to see me in front of them. In the city I was in, there were buildings without windows or doors, just like big boxes. They had a special way to get into these buildings, but it didn't matter to me to know that way. We didn't communicate with our voices. But it was possible to communicate telepathically, and I was able to understand the meaning of every word. They asked me where I came from. They wanted to see in my mind's eye the planet where I was born. They also asked me where on Earth I was born and what I liked to do on Earth. I told them I was born in a place called Seattle and that I liked to surf in Hawaii. They want to see these places in my mind's eye. If I wanted to. Because I have the ability to show them maps in my head. They ask me where I'm going. And they ask me where I get my energy from. I tell them about the plants I eat on Earth, and then they say, "Are you also eating things that are alive?" I said yes. They told me, "We know there are primitive civilizations," and they were really surprised that people from such a primitive world could be met on their planet. I asked them, "Who are you?" The person I asked was kind of in charge. "Where do you get your energy to survive here?" They said, "We get it from the universe just like you do, we get it directly, not like you do." I also asked, "Do you guys sometimes travel to other worlds?" He replied, "Yes, we do," and showed me a spaceship, sort of like a plane, but without wings. I asked him, "What kind of energy do you use to travel?" He said, "We are using gravity emitters to get infinite speed." By the way, as I recall, they were shorter than us and walked slower than us. And they didn't have any hair. They had a strange uniform that blended in with their skin as if it were part of it. It's hard to say where it starts and where it ends. They told me that they might visit your planet in the near future. But it is very far from here. I said, "No problem, be safe." I said, "Goodbye," and thanked them for the information. I left them, and at night I saw a lot of stars. It was totally different from the situation on Earth. No moon was seen and the sky was very beautiful with stars. After seeing the stars from that planet, I decided to go back to my point of origin. I thought what an amazing trip it was. When I thought about how hard it would be for humans to reach the moon and return. Now for me, getting to the moon was as easy as crossing a street, and a planet 100 light years away was as easy as going to the village next door. I continued to ask, "Can I go to a more primitive planet?" I turned my eyes to another planet, with some primitive people chasing strange animals. I tried to communicate with them, but to no avail, they couldn't see me or hear me. It wasn't very interesting there, so I decided to go back into the light. I learned when I went back that we cannot interfere in primitive worlds, which is the main reason why there are big differences between planets, preventing us from reaching their worlds, because it could be a threat to them, because they have to experience their worlds by themselves, just like we need to build our own planets. In the next life, we humans will come to another, more advanced planet, and I thought about it and asked some questions about Earth. According to our current calculations, when will the Earth be destroyed? The answer is 1,500 years after I saw something really big coming, like a comet or an asteroid. At that time, part of humanity will still be on Earth. There was a panic on Earth because scientists knew it was the end of all life and they had no better way to avoid it. But I believe that by that time most of the human race had already gone to live on other planets. And I got the answers I was looking for again, and it felt really good, and although I didn't want to go back to Earth, I felt I had to go back, and I had to tell more people what I had seen. With this thought, I saw myself being pulled toward the bottom of the light and I found myself outside the light. I suddenly realized that I could see my body again. Just then, I saw my friend. She was walking toward me. She was dressed in white, like a bride, not walking, but floating. I had the impression that as she was slowly walking toward me, our bodies merged together, our brains merged together, and we could read each other's thoughts without the possibility of misunderstanding. We used not words, but telepathy, and she told me that she would stay in the light and that her time on Earth was over. She knew that I would return to Earth and would never forget the experience. We embraced each other and said our final goodbyes. The feeling of love grew weaker and weaker, and I could now see everything on Earth: war, greed, anger. As I got closer and closer, I felt very sad about it all. Suddenly, I was back in the car and flames were leaping around me. I turned to see my friend's body, and I already knew she was gone. I had just enough time to get out of the vehicle before the flames reached me. The doctors performed an autopsy on my friend and concluded that she died before the flames could reach her. Despite my multiple fractures, the speed at which I healed was nothing short of miraculous. I returned with supernatural powers and a few gifts. I still miss my friend often, and I know she is happy there, and I'm sure I'll see her there again in the near future.